very special episode with the talented Debbie Rochon. Let's go around the table. Let's do a quick intro. John, who are you? Why are you here?
Jon Keeyes, that's who I am. Writing reviews for Jon Keeyes Cinema Online, and I'm here because I'm just looking forward to talking to Debbie.
Okay, very good. Gruesome, explain yourself.
I am Gruesome Herzog, also known as Scott Geider. I'm an actor, voice actor, producer, and I do reviews at gruesomeherzog.com.
Okay, I am Gino McGehee, your co-host of this event. Filmmaker, Evil Awakening, Rise of the Scarecrows, Family Secrets, Scary Tales, Sickle, Lone Gunman, which is available on YouTube, and I own ScaredStiffReviews.com. Debbie, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm Debbie Rochon. I'm here because there's a chip in my head that the aliens put, and they told me to come here.
Nice. No,
but anyway, regardless of the chip, which is there, yeah, I'm happy to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you
welcome,
for
Debbie.
coming forward. I read some of your history, and I was very intrigued by it. And I find a common thread among artistic people. You basically were on your own from like 14 years old, from what I've read, and you lived a hard life before you found your way. Do you feel that you would have been where you are now if you didn't have, that trial by fire at such an early age?
Well, it's a great question because who's to say? But I will say this: I think we all have something in us that propels us, and different things can catch, and different things can sort of connect. Everybody's journey is different. That's an old saying, but it's very, very true. I've always been, I've always at least known where I didn't want to be. And that it was the beginning of it. Then I fell into what I really enjoyed, and then I just sort of honed in and put blinders on and worked hard. But, wherever the road took me for opportunity, I've been doing radio for a whole bunch of different companies since the mid-'90s. Just like 2-3 years here, then many years span without, then it would just come out of the blue. So it was sort of like a unknown part of what I do that it just keeps presenting itself to me. I've always loved writing, but, never really thought I'd be published, but have been since 92, certainly with different publications. And certainly the acting I studied, so I knew that more than, the others. But, yeah, I think, it's a funny thing, and it's a great question, because you think you've seen the true dregs of society when you're living on the street, but then you get into the very high egocentric world of filmmaking, and you see that, okay, the stakes are different, but they're just as high, and therefore they're slightly different reasons, but the behavior can be just as ugly.
Absolutely.
And so, okay, you know what I mean? So, it's sort of like, wow, that was a little revelation there, but it meant that, okay, well, it's highly disappointing and extremely saddening to me, because you like to think of art at the beginning as art.
Oh,
but,
sure.
Truth be told, get right to it. It's political. It's who you know. It's working hard also. But, you will meet along the way the dregs, the people who will obsess over bringing you down, the people who, I've met them all. I've seen them all.
Amen.
And I know some people who are just going through this for possibly the first time, and I just say to them, well, look, it never gets easy, but I wish I could take this on for you only because I know how it goes. It sucks bad, to have, like, really good so-called friends turn on you. And, they used you, and now that they're not getting what they want, they will then turn on you, and it's quite like a comic book where you must have friends that become enemies so that you can have arch enemies, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're right about the entire the structure of film, and the different personalities and the different agendas. Did you find because I always say the people with the least amount of talent are the biggest headaches. Did you find that you had? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you found that dealing with fake big shots, you did a lot of micro budget film work. Did you find that to be more of a headache than when you moved up to the higher budgeted films?
Well, I still do a mixture, always have, and with any luck, I'll continue to do them all if it's something interesting. Although, I'm certainly at a point where I do enjoy money, meaning, I've lived my whole life, bill to bill.
Sure.
Would be awful nice to be a couple ahead. Who wouldn't like that, right? That's like a little fantasy at this point, the way finances are running, in the whole country, I mean, not just me. But, I feel that I've worked with people like, Billy Drago, just for an example. Okay, he, whether he's that popular now or not is not the point. He certainly was, and anybody with his cachet certainly could walk on a set and be a little diva-ish if they wanted to be, and you know what? He would deserve it because he's amazing and he's great, and, he had a lot of success. But the polar opposite happens. When somebody is really, really damn good, they've got nothing. They do nothing but give.
Yes.
They give because they're confident, and their confidence and their security shows. It's the
Absolutely.
people who don't have that get panicky and they get threatened. And if something good happens to you, and they could be like your best friend.
Yep.
The so-called, right? But if
Yep.
something good happens to you, it threatens them directly, and they don't have it in their humanity to feel good for you.
Right on.
And
true.
luckily I know the difference in my world of who's who, and once in a while you still get surprised. You always will.
Yeah.
But that just couldn't be more true. And the more, pompous and bullshit people walk on the sets with, it's usually followed by, you watch a performance and you're like, or whatever they're doing, a DP, you name it, and you're like, wow, really? All that for that? All that. It's just like, wow.
Egos.
Wow. Shocking.
Oh, yeah. And I had a similar situation. I had a filmmaker that I had helped. I promoted his work on my website. I really pushed him. I actually got him distribution, and he ended up getting really pissed off because my movies had got better ratings and sold more. And he told me, he's like, I don't know why your films sell better than mine. And I told him, I don't want to open this can of worms with you, dude. I'm like, just be happy. And he just went off on me. I was like, this is really amazing that, no good deed goes unpunished.
Right. And you know what? It's sad, but I have to tell you, this just goes on and on with everybody I speak to. It's the same story, their own personal versions, and the fact that 99.9% of the people cannot be fucking happy for you when you put in fucking 30 years and you get a little tiny bit of acknowledgement somewhere along the line that they can't be happy for you. So fuck them. I'm very lucky. I have a handful of people that I really trust. Tiffany Shepis is one of them. She will totally be sincerely happy for me, and vice versa. But this is extremely rare. Extremely rare. More often than not, it's sort of like they just won't bring it up, like any success you've had, or whatever, some sort of event where you've been, somebody's actually said, given you a fan award or something that's, a lot of years in the making. It's not something that does or should happen being in the business 1 or 2 years. And then that's the other thing that kills me too. And the other thing that kills me is like, and you can go men and women both nowadays, right? I've seen directors do this too. it's sort of like, okay, well, you've been working for like 2 years or so. That's fantastic. You've had growth. Beautiful. That's par for the course. But why are you comparing what you're doing? I've been doing it. Well, I was extra for 3 months in 1980, but I've been working in film, like in theater, all through the 80s and then the late 80s, doing movies since then. This is how long it's taken me. Yeah. So why do you compare? If you're a genius and you get it, then God bless, man. I'll be the first one to congratulate you. But why are you like so threatened and want to compare everything? And the thing that kills me is that my favorite artist, Jonathan Bukowski, who is like not around anymore. Like I saw installation at the Whitney when I first moved to New York. He had something up on the wall, and it was just it stands to this day. It's like unless you are unique. And it's the minute you try to, copy someone else or replicate somebody else, including their success, that's the immediate moment you're going to fail. Because if you look at anybody that you respect, you'll see, okay, they had influences, but they are completely unique. Yes.
You can't copy talent.
No. And that's how you find your true talent, is by being unique and stop comparing yourself to others. Like, we all do it, but we have to train ourselves not to, because that is creative death.
I know in the podcast and review world, it's the same aspect. It's this person is jealous of you, and they feaster themselves and worrying about what you're doing, and then when myself I'm talking about when I'm saying this is when I started this 4 years ago, and Gino knows, is I worked my ass off to review, to interview, to strive to be up honest, be myself, be passionate, and then you got other people who are still out there today, but they're so far behind is because they're more worried about what the hell you're doing. Instead of worrying about themselves, they want to bash you on Facebook or whatever, and they can't understand why they aren't any more farther than what they were 3 years ago. And it happens in every profession. I'm just stating that fact of what you said. It happens all the time.
Especially artistically. Artistic people feel the most threatened because that's how they define themselves. Yep. And so, I've seen the same thing. Debbie, let me ask you a question here. And, John, I'm going to let you, John, jump in any time because I don't know how to shut up.
No, it's good. It's good.
Oh, we need the accent just for, to put flavor in this thing. So, John should be speaking more.
He's got that flavor. But, Debbie, how many films have you been a part of that were never completed? I've spoken to many of my actresses, and they've been involved in so many productions by basic clowns that they talk the right talk, but then they never ever have any follow through. And it's like we said before, the least talent gives you the most headaches. They were the biggest dicks on the set. So how many times have you encountered that?
Now, are you talking about projects that are ideas that never started, or ones that you've shot but never were released?
Let's say ones that you shot and maybe not even have completed shooting, but have started film.
Okay, so I'm kind of throwing numbers out, but it's the easiest way to do it. I would say, say I've done, rounding it off, right, 250 movies. I would say a good 20 of them will never ever see the light of day.
No kidding.
And which sounds low, but it's sort of like, in the beginning it was almost every single one, it was mixture with, because everybody was shooting in film still at that point, right, the late 80s. But, but through the 90s you would get a lot of the false start movies, like you'd shoot a whole bunch of scenes because everybody was like, oh, sizzle reel, we'll get more money. But they don't know that it takes like a lot of talent to put together sizzle reel to encourage that kind of money that they're looking for. And it's always like these ideas that okay, they may work for Ron Howard, but they may not work for you, you know, and
Sure.
just them being realistic. So they've fallen apart. So, you know, and then in those cases, some of those cases, I've been very, very, very happy that they fell apart and never saw the light of day. But
Sure.
It does happen, and it happens less now because it sounds really mean, but I'm just cutting to the chase here and telling you how I do it now after all this time, after having a lot of my time wasted. I really just, if it's someone that I haven't already done a movie with, and I don't, you know, and I don't know them, I will say, you know, I love the fact that you're doing this. I love your concept, but contact me 3 months out when you have the budget, you have the script, you're ready to, you know, really talk to me about this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and that's really what it must come down to, because otherwise you're going to be spending every single day reading scripts that nothing ever happens to. And,
Right.
you know, that's the thing. It's like you have to, you know, and you try to be kind by not sending people off to agents to tell them to blow off. So you
Sure.
deal with people directly, but you know what? And the best thing you can do to get people involved in your movie that have any kind of a name at all is just to be ready. You know, it is a professional business. Yes, it's
Sure.
art, but it's a professional business.
Right.
So you should have your budget ready, or at least partially, and then you're working on it. But the script must be ready. You know, you have to seem like you have it together. It's not like this one line. I mean, okay, this is typical, but you know, trust me, this makes me laugh at this point, because you must realize I've seen it all, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'll get like a message through Facebook, which right away, and I know a lot of people do business through there, but I have a website for a reason. The people who are serious can go over there and contact me. But you get like a one-line message in Facebook where, you know, and I just recently got it, and the guy's probably listening, so hello, whatever your name is. He sends one-line thing saying, was interested if you wanted to be in a movie for 10 days. You know, you'd play the mother of somebody and there's a nude scene.
Oh,
Come on.
I'm like, but no, it's not even like the nude scene. Okay, can't even go that far. It's like, okay, well, number one, you know, you're not telling me anything
Right, what the
about
movie
what
is.
kind of role it is.
Yeah.
When it's shoot, it's like, I always go through this. When, where, how much. It sounds cold, but these are the bottom lines.
You have to.
That, you know, unless you want me to put you off to an agent that's going to blow you off, these are the things that you must tell me, and don't put me in a position to have to ask you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so,
Absolutely.
like, it's not even that he mentioned the nudity, but that seemed to be more important to him than the character.
Yes.
Like, you know, the character's vital, how she moves the story along, you know, what's the meaning of her character. Oh, she's in the bath for 2 minutes, do you mind that? But it was just like this sort of like, and it was like the worst pitch I've ever heard, only because what even artistically is this going to appeal to me?
Well, you know what? You see that. I'll keep his name out of the mix here, but he's a local filmmaker. He's never completed a film. But his whole agenda, from my standpoint, is to get attractive women into his film so he can star and he can make out with them, record it, and then just probably watch it at his leisure when he's alone with a blanket over his lap.
Right.
And I see this, and actually I can tell you, he actually grabbed one of my actresses' chests during the production, and she walked. And I wonder, like, I know this has to be something that you've encountered. How do you deal with the guy who says, "Hey, I'm the director, and you got to do what I say"? How do you deal with that hotshot bullshit?
Okay, well, as far as that stuff goes, the truth is I do very little, if any, nudity anymore. The only time, and you know, it's been very, very odd, because just talking about that part of your question. The nudity I have done, strangely enough, I've basically been by myself, meaning shower, bath, whatever. Yeah. Very few, you know, handful of, quote, love scenes, right? And so the times I have done it, they have been so choreographed. There is nothing real about them. And if there was, something like that to go down, it just, first of all, it wouldn't. But if there was, it wouldn't happen. I mean, these poor girls, they don't know. I mean, they haven't gone through, there's two sides. It's really good they can all get leading roles without having to go through like 20 years of paying your dues. Great. But the sad side is you don't go through all that time paying your dues and learning what's right and wrong, what the lines are. You're not making out, unless you're working for, freaking Cronenberg. You're not going to be doing any of that stuff. It can all be shot in such a way that it's all faked, as it should be. It's film. It's not real. It's cinema. Cinema is the art of capturing visually something that's happening to the audience thinks is happening. Sex is like killing. Alfred Hitchcock going back to Psycho. Did he really show anything? Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Did they really, really show anything, or do we think they showed something?
Right.
This very well could be the same thing with love scenes if they're done well. And so these things shouldn't happen, and I feel bad for these girls really actually being abused.
I know a bunch of them.
Me too.
Yeah, it's horrible. And they should make it public, because this person doesn't have any right, seriously, no right at all to do that to these poor girls that don't know any better to say no. They think it's that, but you know what? And I'm not being rude, but actresses are not fucking whores.
Right.
Yes.
It is a craft. Watch American Horror Story. Watch Jessica Lange. Like, you tell me that woman is not sexy. I'm not talking about age right now, but you're going to treat her like a professional. You're hiring a professional to make a movie which consists of hopefully artistic or just at least well shot imagery that makes the audience feel a certain way. That's like saying, okay, in order to do the sex scene, we must really kiss. Okay, complete bullshit. Why? Because in order to do the cutting off of my leg scene, it doesn't mean I have to really cut off my leg, does it?
Right.
Yeah, right.
So no. Just no. Bottom line.
Do you find yourself in a position of advisor to, like, when you see, like, I have a lot of, like Gruesome, a lot of actresses that have worked for me were young, 18, 19, and a lot of them that I speak to, I say, this is a 19-year-old going on 13, and then I start seeing them involved in these productions, and as I'm 39, I want to go there and I want to say, hey, you get away from her. Do you find yourself, or do you take the role of advisor, ever take them aside and say, listen, these guys, they're no good?
Well, I mean, I certainly have done that, and I've done, you know what though? I've gone both sides of the coin though. That's the thing, is because at this point, it's very difficult for me to keep my mouth shut when something is really, really wrong, inappropriate. And so I will not only go on the side of the man behaving badly, I will also go on the side of the female behaving badly. I did a movie where this actress was, and I mean literally, hanging off every guy that had any level of importance on the movie.
Oh my God.
And I just finally, after 10 days, I couldn't take it, because I had really important scenes, but everybody was like kind of fell under this spell. And I was just like, I don't need much. I'm kind of a loner, and I prefer it that way, and I prepare that way. But to just be completely lost before I'm doing scenes, and you're not doing your job as a director, now I'm getting pissed off. So I literally went up to her and I said, would you stop hanging off of all of these guys so the rest of us could get some work done?
Yep.
So I will say that I've spoken to both sides of the coin on this one. So yes, I guess the answer is yes, but it doesn't stop with the men. It is the women want to play the men, and then the men just kind of turn to jello. Not all they turn to Jello, some of them, and
Sure.
they just, blah, 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 blah. And everybody else can just, not go to hell intentionally, but fall away, and their performances and everything get, third rating. And then when the movie comes out, and this always makes me laugh, then when the movie comes out, and the people who were there, whether they got, even a hello in the morning, they were there and did their job, the critics will acknowledge their work. And all the ones that got all the attention on the set, because they needed to be the belle of the ball, or the beau of the ball, if it's a guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They get nothing. Because that's all they were concerned with, is their ego. But then hopefully the critics will see who's actually putting in the work, or attempting to put in the work. So, the truth will finally come out, That's my theory.
Well, Debbie, you mentioned earlier about the email that you got. Now, you said even before that last sentence about nude scene. Now, you being in the business as long as you have. Now, coming from my end, if I was seeing email like that, it seems to me like the person who sent you that email is more concerned about nudity, like you mentioned.
Right.
And to me, it creeps me out, and I'm a dude. And to me,
yes.
From what I'm saying, being a father and a grandfather of 9 at the same age as you are, born in 68, it's offensive to me to hear you say that, because there's a lot of pigs, P-I-G-S, filmmakers that I've dealt with in the last 4 years can fuck off, can kiss my ass, because they disrespect women. Look, not every horror film has to have nudity. And I've said this time and time again. And you can call me a fag, you can call me anything you want, but I don't need to see nudity in a horror film. And when people come to you and say, yeah, Debbie, I'd like to know if you want to have a role, but there's a nude scene, I'm thinking, 1, you never told her what the name of the movie is. 2, you're not even telling you what the role is. And 3, fuck the nudity. You don't need the nudity. It's Debbie Rochon. That's good enough for your film to possibly get a distributor or whatever. You don't need fucking nudity. End of story.
Right. And you know what? I'll even bypass nudity just for a second and say, do you have a title for your movie? Is there a description of the character? Just what you said. I mean, really? This just is if this is just all, right there, what does that say to you? It just says, oh boy, this is going to be a very high quality movie.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
20-something.
I mean, you know what? I've had many instances where, recently, not all that, well, recently, Serial Caller, a movie I did in the UK, directed by Dan Brownlee, super human being. There, I have this scene. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a scene where there's all this plastic surgery that's been done to my body. I'm really grotesque, too much really back alley surgery has been done to my body, and I'm kind of like a Frankenstein monster. But, I have prosthetics everywhere, and he was just completely, read the script. It came up, in other words, it came up later, naturally, when you talked about the scene, because you want to talk about every scene.
Right.
They're all important. And then it came up, okay, well, how are we going to handle this scene? And, okay, oh, good, well, that sounds good. Sure, yeah, let's try this, and... I think it'll be more effective if we do it this way, and it's somewhat of a collaboration without not being true to the material, and the conversation comes up when it needs to come up. It's not like the first thing out of your mouth, but that's a warning signal. It's
it is.
That's a warning signal.
And I agree with Gruesome here to a large degree that I don't put my films really don't have any nudity in them, because mainly if it doesn't push the story forward, I particularly don't see a reason for it. But I saw you were in Playmate of the Apes. I think Playmate of the Apes is a hilarious movie, and the nudity there doesn't really matter. And I also think
right. I understand, I understand that. Yeah.
But I also think Misty Monday, who was a star of that, was she. And maybe I'm in the minority here, but I always thought she had a certain amount of class, and that she brought. It didn't seem like a porn movie. It seemed more of like a fun. There were sexual elements to it, but it really seemed important to the story. It kind of went with the story to where you were in another film. And I don't want to offend you at all, but I can't not ask you. But The Deepening, when I watched The Deepening, I was offended by it. I thought that it was, I didn't think it was very good, but I did think like the filmmakers that incorporated themselves kind of did it just to get with chicks, and it was kind of exploitive. Maybe you can prove me wrong here. Am I wrong about The Deepening?
I saw that too.
No, I mean I think that that was like it was definitely an odd situation, and I think at the end of the day, I would have to just completely agree with you, and what my sort of litmus test is for something like that is, whether I walked away and then when they send me the movie I actually watch it, and I've yet to watch it. So what does that say? That says, okay, I walked away and I must have felt like, you know what I mean? And then what happens is, well, you don't really talk about it or promote it. It's sort of like, well, it seemed different on the page, and then it kind of mutated, and then it just becomes something that you don't talk about. I mean, quite frankly, and to be really honest with you, never watched it. So what does that say? I think that speaks volumes because, a lot of times, I mean, me and my husband, we're common law, but I call him my husband. We have great fun watching, a lot of my movies repeatedly, whether they're funny intentionally or unintentionally, or they're just good movies, and we have a lot of fun doing that. But, there's some that's like, nah, it's just like, it's like collecting dust, and you'll never see me talk about it. And it's not even malicious. It's just sort of like, how you walk away from a set is a very important thing, It's going to taint, so to speak, your whole viewpoint towards the movie, I think. And if you feel like, that was kind of gross, then you were right. I mean, your instincts are always right. And
I agree.
So I can't disagree with you. As far as, working with Misty Monday on the movies and stuff, well, as you probably know if you've seen them, I've always done the comedy wraparounds. With John Fideli and Zach Sneg and stuff like that. So I've always had like a blast working on those. So my actual interactions with her were very limited because we would shoot that obviously separately.
Sure.
I have, I think she was able to make a really, really nice, career out of what she did. But, the truth be told, I mean, there's not a lot of nice things I would have to say about her.
Oh, okay.
And that's just like personal experience and completely unnecessary for someone who's a fan to care about what my personal experiences are. Definitely continue being a fan. But, just as a human, not a fan. So, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't enjoy her film work, because then it becomes you separate the person from the film work,
Oh, yeah, and that can be really disheartening when you have a certain idea of what this person is, and then they can be completely different. And I've had that happen before with celebrities, and I also cover boxing, so with boxers, and when I finally talk to them face to face, I'm like, what a freaking dickhead. And it really can burst your balloon a little bit. There was some really weird stuff that went down, and I think it was who knows what was going on, in her camp with her sister at that particular time. This is going back a ways. When we were shooting Skin Crawl, there was some really messed up stuff that happened, and basically
never worked with him again because of it. And these were like my really good best friends. Zach Snigg, John Fideli wasn't my best friend, but he's a good friend. And, you know, I brought in so many people to that film, like that I knew from Troma, like, you know, Heidi, who was in Toxic 4, and I brought in another fellow from some Pittsburgh movies. Like, I brought in like 5 actor friends of mine that were good, that I thought would really help this movie, and they did. But some shit went down and washed my hands of it, and it was like very insulting. And, you know, when I was told that their lawyer was going to call me up and apologize, he called me up instead and said, you know, well, you know, I hope, you know, your feelings aren't going to include, you know, because at that point she was synonymous with the company name.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, well, this isn't going to affect how you treat, you know, this person who is now basically an entity, not really even a person. And I was just like, you know what? Hung up. Because it wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. And then, you know, she went down some interesting roads, can I phrase it that way, and did some interesting things to people. And, you know, what can I say? I mean, like, when you get involved with, you know, substances abuse and stuff like that, you know, shit happens. And you know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. And then, years and years later, 7 years to be exact, the director, who's like just a huge sweetheart, wonderful, wonderful person, 7 years later, sent me an email that apologizing and saying, you know, I was in the company, and at that time she was just like synonymous with the company name, like, you know, she was just branded the company. And you know, now I see, and I'm, you know, clear-sighted, and sent me a very long apology email, which I really, really appreciated. And that's how long sometimes these things can take.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, she was the selling point, and I had figured something may have happened, because they started routing her into horror, and they made one crappy movie with her, and I really did think that they were going to shift focus from like the comedic Skinamax stuff into legitimate straight to video horror, and that never happened. So that kind of makes sense where you're going, that something must have happened backstage that derailed the money train.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because also, you know, the bottom was falling out of the entire industry at that point. Not just like the TNA stuff, which they got like major dollars for. And the bottom fell out of that once those contracts were over and people were moving on from that type of material. Yeah, really hard to find your way when you're sort of revamping a company and trying to find the next popular thing to make money on. So it's probably like a combination of a lot of things that happened. And now, actually, Pop Cinema's turned into a great company that has some really amazing titles and, you know, good people working there. So it's sort of like had this like full, I don't know if you'd say 180 or 360, but a full turnaround where it's like a really reputable place again, and they handle some very interesting titles. So it's like, it's just nice to see, you know, it's really nice to see that they found a really, really nice positive niche again.
Now, why didn't Head Cheerleader, Dead Cheerleader get better distribution? I thought that movie was funny.
I don't know. I think it was maybe too lowbrow, you know, because it wasn't exactly funny enough, and it certainly wasn't scary enough to like really find a solid home in any particular genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it was sort of like a little pieces of everything, but didn't quite deliver fully in any one area. So hard to say. I mean, I always liked the title.
I mean, that was
my favorite part of the movie, was the title.
Well, I tell you what, I had found it online years ago, and I bought it strictly for the title. And
See?
you know,
It worked.
It did, and I didn't think it was that bad. It definitely a Scream ripoff for sure, but interesting, pretty funny, and I thought it could have had a run like Bleed did. I think you did Bleed as well, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah, as Bleed did, and Bleed had a great run. I remember.
Yeah,
I saw it
and they repackaged it actually and re-released it. So just recently, Full Moon. So I'm excited to see what they did.
Do you know the films that I liked, you and Debbie, was the Bikini Bloodbaths?
Oh my God, how funny are those? And those guys are amazing.
They are.
Oh God,
I love them.
They're hilarious. The Bikini Bloodbath guys are all amazing human beings, as well as fun, great, supportive. Just can't say enough. I mean, you just don't meet these type of people enough, and they are total quality people. And then we did the series movie, the Rudyard Kipling Mark of the Beast film, which did really well critically. I don't know if a lot of people saw it, but critically it did very well. And yeah, and then now he's doing a VHS massacre documentary on the rise and fall of the VHS and going into all the new medias. So I'm excited for him. But yeah, good group of people and funny.
Funny
I thought
movies.
their humor was great.
And that Chainsaw Cheerleaders is another one I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, you know, now that's one I haven't seen, and only because I just haven't got around to it. There wasn't anything weird or bad. Just, you know, yeah, I hadn't got around to that one. That was like the first movie I did with Donald Farmer, which you know, it's not like I've done many, but first movie I did a little bit for him in after he had suggested the filmmakers that I went and did the movie on where I got my fingers cut off, which had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with him. But yeah, so many years went by, and then I just did a few scenes for that. But I just haven't, one of those things, I just haven't seen that one yet. But yeah, another cheerleader movie.
Yeah.
Well, they sell. You talked about the title, you know, Head Cheerleader, Dead Cheerleader being an awesome title. Do you ever, like, is there ever a movie that comes across that you look at it, you say, hey, the money's right, the script is good, but what the fuck is with the title? And if you do you ever talk to the producers, or do you feel it's overstepping your bounds?
I can't. I'm trying to think of a situation where that's happened. The only one it's happened with was my own movie. And then by the time I finished shooting it, I loved the title, Model Hunger.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how? What the hell kind of title is that, James? That was the writer.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, Model Hunger? Come on, do better than that.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, by the time we finished shooting and everything we did, and it's right. I mean, what can I say? It just is. When you see it, I think you'll know. But I mean, that was like the strongest reaction was the only film that I ever directed was the only time that happened to that extreme. No, I've always thought the titles are really pretty good. Some of them are could be maybe a little bland, but I mean, not wrong or bad or, you know, a detriment to the selling of them. But yeah, that was the only time I was in the most shock, and turned out to be my own movie. So there you go. But I turned around.
But Lynn Lowry is very excited about Model Hunger. That's all she talked about in their interview last week. She's just amazing.
You, if she doesn't get, you know, the whole desk full of awards, then there's just no justice. And I feel the same about Tiffany in it, and Brian Fortune, Voltaire. I mean, just like, the list goes on. I'm not, you know, I'm Michael Thurber. I just, you know, every single person. I'm not, you know, intentionally leaving anybody out, but I can't mention the entire cast.
Right.
It's just, everybody's just so good, and it's so reliant on performances in this movie, and that's really boom. Like when you got them, it's like a whole different animal. Whole different animal.
Well, she said to me, she said, man, if Scott, if you thought I was a bitch in Basement Jack, you ought to see me in this one.
Uh-huh.
There is a film, and I'll let John talk. He's supposed to be talking, but there's a film that I got a screener for. It's called Stop Dead. You know Jason very well. Me and Jason had talks about you, not so bad, but about your relationship with him and his wife, you know. And I thought Stop Dead was a brilliant film because there wasn't much money there, but the kill scenes in that movie reminds me of 1980, where the knife goes up, and that's it. The point was done. And I emphasize this to all these reviewers today, especially these young ones, that all they want to see is tit and ass and gore. You don't have to see gore for a horror film to be good. I like it when you ain't got the money and you accidentally, maybe not accidentally, make it an 80s throwback, because it works. I mean, in the early 80s, when the knife goes up, you don't see blood, but the point's taken, and I thought that movie was brilliant. And I thought you were brilliant in that film because of the character that you had in that film.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I really think that, you know, for just a whole load of reasons, that it's, if not Jason's best movie, one of Jason's best movies. And, you know, that was a lot of fun to make. I thought he really made something very, very cool with Stop Dead. Like, he really, like, just watching his progress, knowing him for so many years, it's just really incredible. And, you know, he's just someone who just keeps working and working and working and working. And, you know, that was sort of like we all have as artists, whether we paint, dance, act, or whatever the hell we do, we have moments where things kind of shift. Okay, there was a marked difference, and then you go on till you get to the next plateau. I think that was a definite marked difference right there with Stop Dead. So I agree with you completely.
Yeah, because we had plenty of talks on the phone for a while, and he asked me if I wanted to see it. Of course, you know how filmmakers are. You know, you're the same way. When you make a baby, okay, you see things differently than what a reviewer would see. Like, you'll say, you know, it ain't that great, Scott, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's going to say that because it's his baby, you know. And then when I think I might have seen it like last year, I think it was, and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, dude, this movie's, I love it because I'm an 80s baby. I mean, I was born in 68, but I'm an 80s horror guy. I'm an 80s guy, period. And when I can watch a film, again, that's maybe not intentionally thrown back to the 80s style, but I enjoy it because I'm actually watching something that I grew up watching, and two, you seem to see more of a clever filmmaking when they make films like this because they're getting the point across, and it's easy. I mean, to me, it looked easy. I mean, we don't have all the stuff to make it bloody, but let's just do it and see what happens. And he pulled it off beautifully, I thought. That's just my opinion.
And, you know, we were all outside rocking the RV. I was having scenes I was rocking the RV with my legs in the sea.
I love it.
Literally. Like, okay, well, if I just kind of, like, sort of act like I'm falling this way because of the road, it's actually going to rock the RV. I mean, it's team playing. Being a team player. But, you know, I got to be honest, it's also a lot of fun. I mean, this is what, you know, movie is. It's not just having the guys who are rocking things for you. It's like, you know what? I can actually use some of my creativity too. And, like, you know, help the situation along. And I love that stuff.
I love Joe D. Winecoop.
Oh, what a passionate guy. He's so passionate. He just loves what he does so much. He really does. He's a lifer.
Now, Debbie, when you I've always felt like when I make a film, it is an emotional thing for me. And when you break away, when the production is over, there is almost like a sadness to it. You know, it's bittersweet. How do you cope with that? I see you're involved in so many things. How do you cope with or do you have the separation anxiety thing? You know, the bittersweetness?
I do, but not with every single movie. Like I do, it depends on the people I'm working with. It depends how long I'm working on the movie. If I go in for 1 or 2 days, I will not have that. Like I'll have like a great time and, you know, be sad to see people for such a short amount of time. But,
Sure.
you know, I get more of that when I'm there for the bulk or the full duration of shooting and the people are all creative, non-egocentric, you know,
Yes.
filmmakers, and I'm including, you know, the actors and stuff. They're all like on the right page, and then I will get completely teary-eyed, and it's very. I mean, you know, it happens every time I go to Ivan Ducon's film sets. He did Color from the Dark and now Wrath of the Crows. I get that way even with Stefan Milla. I've done 2 movies with him in Italy. One was Solid State, and then most recently Richard the Lionheart Rebellion. Because, you know, when people are like such good people and it's the filmmaking is pure from the heart, it's a very different experience. Like, you know, I'll get that way working with, you know, Mel House down in Texas, Psychic Experiment, and then Imago, Placeholders. Then I'll get that way with Jon Keeyes, did American Nightmare, which was amazing, and then we just did Nightmare Box. You know, done, I mean, the list goes on, but it's, you absolutely still get it. When you don't get it, it's sort of like, people who maybe are not there for completely the same reasons as you, and you know, maybe you're there for a short time, like super short, and, you know, then you still have a good time, perhaps. But, you know, you don't have that anxiety, that separation anxiety. So does that still happen after all these years? Yes, but not every time.
Right.
You know, only when it touches your heart.
I agree with you. That is definitely the best way to put it.
And Dan, sorry to cut you off, but Dan Brownlee, I've only done 1 movie with him, but because we put like so much of our souls into it, it felt like there was that feeling from making that movie. You know, just it depends how much of yourself you're actually using in the movie, then it becomes like a part of your soul in a way.
Yeah.
I'm
in his next film, The Undead.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's a voice actor role, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's so awesome.
Yep.
He's great guy.
Now, I don't mean to be hogging this, but Dee Snider. I've heard a lot of negative stuff about Dee Snider, and I see you've worked with him. How was your experiences with Twisted Sisters, Dee Snider?
Nothing but good. I went into it, bottom line, true story. I went into it thinking, you know, oh my God, you're a metal guy from the 80s. I was a punk rocker. How's this going to go? Like, you know, just like not really being, not so much not a fan of him, but not a fan of that style of music. So, like, I didn't, you know, judge him based just on that, but I was sort of like, what are you really going to have in common? He's done 1 horror movie, and, you know, so he's done a ton of radio, but, you know, okay, so then came together, ended up to be the most amazing, kind, giving guy. I learned so much from him in many different ways. He's like constantly on the road doing stuff that you don't hear about in the press because he doesn't like yell it to the rooftops that he's doing it. He's constantly doing charity events for
I've heard
children.
of that.
Just all kinds of them, like, you know, Bikers for Babies, and just like all, you know, the problem in Long Island with all the people starving, like the children starving, you know, poverty, and a lot of the stuff you don't hear about, and he's constantly doing it. So I have nothing but like golden things to say about the man. And walking in, it's not like, oh, I thought I was going to hate him, but I was like, oh, well, this is a huge question mark here. But walking away, so to speak, even though we still talk, he's golden. You know, he's absolutely golden human. Like, he's got a heart of gold, and he gives so much to everybody, the community, everybody. So, there's no one can get me to say anything bad about him.
No, yeah, that's the thing that I had heard from several people that he was kind of, I'll say like egomaniac sort of deal. But then I had seen a mini documentary where he was, I want to say he was inspired, I might be wrong, by Mick Foley, the professional wrestler. And then he started doing all this charity work. And when they asked him about it, he was very dismissive of it, saying that a lot of people do a lot more. But realistically, most people do a lot less. And so yeah, I saw that side of it too. And a lot of times people can rub people the wrong way, and it can create a monster, and it doesn't mean it's true. So just to go into a little bit of backstory, which will take all of 30 seconds. Okay, here's a man that had to fight in a time where hair bands had people like Bret Michaels in their prime, and all the pretty boys, John Bon Jovi, and all these like pretty boy frontmen, and he was not that. He had to slather makeup on his face and become, and I'm not saying this disparagingly, but he had to become a form of a clown because he had to kind of hide his looks to a certain degree. But he had the voice to back it up. And so he had to do that to compete and make it work, like really like pull himself, because he was very, very poor growing up. And so to pull himself up, and he had to do it. Now, when I first met him, we did the test show for Sirius, and they loved it. And so we were in the Sirius studios, and, he definitely said, yeah, I'm going to conquer the walk, But he said it in the sense like of somebody who had extremely healthy confidence, not a complete asshole who couldn't back it up with any talent. Yeah.
And there's a difference. And you know what? You've got to have an element of that to make it, because you're going to have everybody and their fucking dog and mother putting you down.
Sure.
So if you can't believe in you, hang it up now. So if he walks in a room, and he always told me, like he was giving me advice, he was like, when you walk in a room, you own the room. You have to. In this business, because of this specific business that we're in. Because otherwise people will look at you as weak. And it's not, and that's just the way it is.
No, you're right, and he's right. And realistically, like, I was a Twisted Sister fan.
Me too.
And in junior high, I actually got in trouble for putting the Twisted Sister sign on my history book. But if you, but if you match realistically, throw looks aside and everything, just the music alone, their music was very catchy, very good, and even their later stuff, Come Out and Play, I think is one of their best albums.
We're gonna take it.
Just
He very underrated, like in a lot of ways, and like I said, I was honest with him too. Like going in, I couldn't say that I was a fan, but I had been a couple years in a row to his Christmas show, and like man, nobody kicks it out like him.
Nope.
And I'm not even going to bring age into it. I don't care if they're 19 and he's in his early 50s when I went to go see him. They wouldn't have been able to do what that guy did. There's no fucking way.
He's great in concert.
Man,
exactly. He can entertain.
Oh, he's always been like that. The Twisted Sister was like you said, it was hard to make it in that hair band era, and he's clumped into that group, and he was made of firmer, or at least the band was made of firmer stuff. They like Iron Maiden was called a hair band, and
hell no.
Iron Maiden is such a wonderful, talented band, but you get the people that are just dismissive of that era altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
Screw them. That's the best music there is. I grew up with that stuff, man.
Yeah. No, I know, and a lot of people they freaking love it, man. I mean, like, it's even now more than ever. I mean, it's nice to have a resurgence, because these guys deserve to have, and I mean this sincerely, they deserve to go out on the road and make some money so they don't have to spend their old age poor, because we've all seen it in the horror business with, Vampira and all these great cult celebrities that we've loved all our lives, and there they are, we've loved them, but they don't have socks to put on their feet. They're so poor.
Sad.
Yeah, that's
there is no comeback tour for them, So I love it. I love tours and stuff like that. And I'm obviously because of where I'm at in my life, but I've never been an ageist.
No, and a lot of the problem is in the United States they're promoting shit like Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber. And if you look at, going back to Iron Maiden sold out a concert, I think it was in India, of 100,000 people. If they played their music over here, they would still be as popular in the States as they should be. But it's the media that's dictating who gets the shots.
Right. Exactly.
And fucking Miley Cyrus. My dear Lord.
Oh, my good. Oh, yeah. Well, that's another hour for another time. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Lady Gaga and all that garbage.
Well, Lady Gaga. John. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still alive.
I've only got a few more minutes, so I want to talk to John.
Hello, Debbie. It's nice after, I don't know, was it 2 hours?
Yes.
Waiting to get to say hello to you. How are you doing tonight? You been busy?
Really great. And it's great to hear your voice, John.
It's nice to speak to you after waiting so long. But Gino did say to me, he said, look, John, he said, you're a fucking Englishman. I don't like English. Don't talk.
Wow, what an asshole.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
John,
you bastard. I'll have to say to Gruesome, because Gino wouldn't stop talking, I've written a list out of 50... I tried to cut your...
Why didn't you? I told you to.
I'm not talking to you. Go away. I tried to cut...
we could always do a part 2, but I'm just throwing that out there. So go ahead.
I think we're going to have to, because I didn't get a chance to speak to Gruesome. I tried to cut a list down of your films to talk about, and I cut it down to 50.
See, yeah, John, where you been? Where you been? We've been talking about music. I'm not even in the music industry.
Yeah,
see what happens, John, when you're not, heading the thing up. We go up on tangents for hours.
That's it.
But yeah, maybe if you guys are so kind, it would be really awesome.
We'd love to.
Part 2.
I still like to ask the opening one, because it is interesting to ask each person how you actually got into acting.
Oh, well, happy to tell the story. Hopefully the listeners don't already know it, but I was homeless in Vancouver before I moved to New York, and I actually just, making the whole story short, I walked into a casting call for Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains, which had Ray Winston, one of his first roles, Sex Pistols, Clash,
brilliant,
Laura Dern, Diane Lane, like a lot of these people's first movie or second movie tops. Like everybody was like majorly young, as was I, and I was like one of the featured extras for 3 months, and I got paid $300 cash a week, and that's actually what changed my life, because without getting like the feedback, because a lot of the other people hired to do the background work, they were just like sort of like bored, and they didn't care. But me, I was like obsessively trying to do everything. Feedback actually is what changed my life. Like I actually had the assistant director say good to me once, and that was the first time in my life I heard that from somebody. So I was like, wow, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Probably saved my life, because everybody that I know, and I actually have been reconnecting with some people recently for the work I'm doing on my book, are dead, long dead, and really saved my life. So that's the short version. But so that was it was a pretty amazing experience, because it not only started the film, but it also quite literally saved my life. And not being dramatic about it, just those are the facts, and very grateful for the whole thing.
I've tried to explain to Gina about Ray Winston being such a good actor, but because he's English, unfortunately, he doesn't go for it.
He's amazing.
I like Benny Hill.
Yeah,
He's good in everything. Sexy Beast. Did you see his daughter in Donkey Punch?
I did see Donkey Punch.
Yeah, that's a good film.
John needs a Donkey Punch.
She came on the Fangoria Radio show, and I said, knowing her dad, because her dad was so in character as a punk rocker, and I was at this like really small party one night where he was there, and because me and my friend and Paul Cook from the Sex Pistols were standing in the corner laughing, he like ripped the phone out of the wall just because he was so in character, right? And he heard us laughing, and he like threw it right at our heads. And that always stayed with me. And of course, he did these intense roles and amazing fucking roles. Like, he's so good. But I said to her, even just from my personal experience, I said, "Has your dad seen the movie?" And she said, "Oh, hell no." and the guy who was having sex with her in the movie was also on, and he said, "Oh no, I would have to leave the country if he saw this movie." And John, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
I've not seen the movie. I knew about it before it came out because at the time I was a big fan of the Sex Pistols. But still to this day, I haven't seen it. I've got to be honest. Can I just bring up? What have you got time for me to just bring up one more film?
Sure.
Yeah, because Gino agree it has got the finest actor in the world in. It's called Vampire's Kiss with Nick Cage.
Yes, that was like very small. Like, I had one line with him at the bar which was cut out. So that's like it's a good story because it was so amazing to me, you know, because Jennifer Beals was in the booth right beside me, and there was, you know, Nicolas Cage and everything, and so it was a very exciting time because like it sort of had promise of what would be, what could be, and they cut the line, which was fine with me really because at the end of the day it was sort of like the experience of it was really what was the most important thing to me, and so that was very cool. And I look back at that movie and I just adore that movie. I think it's a genius take on vampirism, if you will. But all these people super cool, and Jennifer Beals like really, really shy. Didn't know, obviously someone like me wouldn't get to know them well under those circumstances, unlike Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stage, which I, you know, spent 3 months with these people, but they seemed to be extremely, extremely courteous and nice, and Nicolas Cage was just so kind and there and not blowing you off at whatsoever, you know, because you just have one line. No, everything was important to him, and it was a really, really good experience. So I have a lot to say about that because it's so minuscule, but you know, definitely very positive.
Well, like you said, the people with the most talent, they have that confidence, like Nicolas Cage does.
And yes, and there you go. Thank you. And when he chooses the right material, he's got the, you know, the talent's obvious.
Second to none. John, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I shot myself in the foot, didn't I? I'm man enough to say it. Well,
Debbie, just let you and me and John have a war about Nicolas Cage. That I contend he's fantastic. John contends he sucks.
But you know, I would have to, before we do part 2, maybe I need to send John the movies I liked him in because there's movies I hate him in.
Mm-hmm.
And
thank
so
you.
maybe we can come to terms.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, I'm hoping that we can have a cage match where we can finally determine which one is right. Because John's just been running off at the mouth.
Big talk.
As you can tell, he doesn't know how to shut up. Debbie, Wicker Man remake, good or bad?
Didn't work for me.
Yay!
Yay!
Didn't work for me.
No.
Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider.
Yeah, just, wanted it to, but didn't need to. It was from that time. You can't copy, all the free spirits from the original that were like dancing around. There's just some times in this world, there's some eras and times and moments that you can't recreate. I mean, it becomes like, okay, they're more devilish or more witchy, or it's not like this sort of weird witchy / hippie / whatever that's from the era of the film that was made. And there's just things that were meant to be kept when they were shot, and there's other things that need to be remade. But that's one. Yeah, that's one that didn't need to happen.
I think it's so ridiculous. It's good. I think Nicolas Cage when he turns it on, and in the Wicker Man, he turned with John in the Wicker Man. He turned it on just like an 8mm. He turned it on to the max. And I don't know. I gotta say, the Wicker Man remake was amusing. When he was getting the bees and how to get burned, I crack up laughing whenever I see it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not what they wanted.
I don't think it's what they wanted.
No, I don't.
I don't think it's what they wanted. But, alas, there you go. But we should do part 2, guys.
Well, I should mention one film only because of the DVD release is coming up. That's Caesar and Otto's Deadly Christmas.
Yes, which I'm like, I don't even know. I guess he's using maybe footage from another movie that I did with him. So, yeah, that, and in a couple days from now, As Night Falls is hitting DVD.
Love that movie.
By Breaking Glass Pictures, as a matter of fact.
I got my screener from them. Yep.
Nice.
And yeah, really, really nice. And Wrath of the Crows will be early next year, and Imago will be soon. And yeah, so we got a couple things come out in December. Both, or I should say November for As Night Falls, and then I guess it's December for Caesar and Otto's Deadly Christmas.
Yep.
So.
And you were in this corny film, Teen Ape versus the Monster Nazi Apocalypse.
Yes. I
want to tell you something. I love films just like that. It's corny, retarded, but fun.
Yes. And they're whatever you see, that's as fun as it was to do.
I believe it. Oh my God.
Had a riot making that.
Yep.
So that was true. That's just like, to hell with any method. I'm just going to have fun. And that's all it is. Just going to have fun.
It was hilarious. It was like so off the wall. It's excellent.
Yes. Well, my taste goes from one extreme to another, so I can like really hardcore serious stuff, Like Wrath is just exceptional. Exhumed, I think, is exceptional. Dry Bones, another movie coming out in early 2012, I believe, is going to be like another really cool movie.
Sick Boy was great.
Yeah, I mean we've got it's something to please everybody. We could put it that way. There's something to please everybody in this slate of films, from the ridiculous and sublime to the serious and artistic.
To a mother of a sick boy.
Yes, exactly. He's just sick. He'll be fine.
Don't go down his room, though. He must stay up here.
Right. He must stay there. Can I say this 5 times and will you listen?
Nope.
But they never do.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely. Well, Debbie, it's been absolutely awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And John, thank you,
we
John.
will continue. Let's continue.
Thank you, Debbie. It was nice. It was nice talking to you for 75 seconds.
Well, we'll start it next time. That's the plan.
What we'll do is me and Gina will put tape on our mouths. We'll just let John talk.
That's right. It's going to be, definite, at least 2 hours with John before we even introduce you guys.
That sounds good to me.
That's if
well,
I call.
thank you all. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks, Debbie.
coming on.
Great having you on.
Okay. You have a good one. Bye-bye now.
Take care. We'll see you.
Bye.